Our guest who's joining us online is Dr. Gaetano Cavalieri, who's the president of the World Jewellery Confederation, CIBJO. As he presents a keynote address to us, let me tell you that one of the most prominent leaders in the international jewelry industry today, Dr. Cavalieri, has served for more than 20 years as the president of CIBJO, which is the World Jewelry Confederation, uniting national jewelry and gemstone associations from more than 40 countries, including many of the industry's major corporations and international associations. CIBJO is industry's oldest international organization, which was established way back in 1926. So if you actually look at it, next year they complete a centenary with 100 years. It covers the entire jewelry, gemstone, and precious metal sector from mine to marketplace within each of the component sectors in the various production, manufacturing, and trading centers. Ladies and gentlemen, he will be talking to us on opportunities for growing silver jewelry market globally. Can we please give a resounding round of applause to the towering personality that Dr. Gaetano Cavalieri is?
Thank you very much for this warm introduction. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It is a distinct honor to be able to address you today at the India Silver Conference, and even more so in that this is the first opportunity I have had to appear before this gathering. And obviously, I regret that I'm talking to you from Stockholm in Sweden, because I have another conference where I have to be there later on today and tomorrow. So unfortunately, I cannot be in my beloved India. My thanks and congratulations to Eventel Global Advisory, and please allow me to pay tribute to the Silver Institute and the Indian Bullion and Jewelry Association. Next slide, please. For us in the jewelry industry, I must admit that silver often is regarded as the younger child in our living room, not as loudly heard than some of its larger siblings like gold and diamonds. But that's a misguided perception, of course, given silver's ancient history and heritage and its enduring popularity in the market, especially among younger consumers. Silver's perceived status is to a large degree the result of the massive price differentiation between it and the other precious metal classes, but also its relative softness, which limits its use when it comes to gem set jewelry. But the jewelry market must remain an important feature in your field of vision, for its account for about 20% to 25% of total demand for silver in any given year. That also could rise, and not simply because of the market speculation. At the end of the day, we need to sell products, and with gold price in particular rising into stratosphere, we must protect price point or risk losing part of our market. Increasing the volume of silver in our jewelry, it's a cost-effective way of doing that. Whether this is a short-term phenomenon or a sustained business strategy, we will leave it to the jury to deliberate. What I would like to focus my remarks on today are two not necessarily related trends affecting my industry, and these speak volumes about what is happening and will happen in the silver market as well. Next slide, please. The first trend is a massive growth in fashion jewelry. or what once more often was referred to as a costume jewelry. Indeed, the very tendency to call it fashion uh, jewelry today is indicative not only of its growing prestige, but also of the way in which it is being differentiated from high-end jewelry products. High-end jewelry is often regarded as a lifelong purchase, held onto for many years, worn on special occasion, and then bequeathed to your children. Fashion jewelry, like fashionable clothing, is seasonable, worn quite intensively for a period of time, and then set aside as new fashion trends take over. And like fashionable clothing, it is now necessarily inexpensive. Fashionable clothing and fashion jewelry are also frequently related, with the one being an accessory of the other. Silver is a preferred choice for the fashion jewelry industry, with solid or electroformed pieces often edging out the gold or silver-plated jewelry items that used to dominate, and also base metals like copper and nickel, or alloys like brass and pewter. The fashion jewelry market is massive, equaling about $37 billion in 2024, accounting for more 10% of jewelry sales, with a forecast that will be reaching about 66 billion by 2032. It is a growth trajectory that reflects not only an expanding consumer base, but also a growing inclination toward affordable luxury. The Danish company that today refers to itself as the world's largest jewelry retailer, at the very least in terms of volume, and I refer to Pandora, of course, which markets its product in more than 100 countries on 6 continents, with more than 6,700 points of sales. Reported several years ago that more than 80% of the pieces it produces are silver. The brand, which amazingly started out a family-run jewelry shop in Copenhagen a little more than 40 years ago, grew into a market leader because it pitched itself as a fashion icon. It reinforced the image of silver jewelry as highly fashionable, making it exactly what one wants to be seen out and about in. And it is not only brands like Pandora and Swarovski that have been driving this growth. While online sales have permeated into all sectors of the jewelry market, the adoption of e-commerce business models was considerably smoother with fashion jewelry than it was fine jewelry, benefiting from the development and strength of flat platforms like Amazon, Alibaba, Etsy, and eBay, with the first two they being the world's largest retailer. Social media platforms have also played a pivotal role. Other factors driving the growth of the fashion jewelry markets include the increasing disposable income of consumers, particularly in emerging markets, which has expanded the potential customer base. As the slide shows, the fastest growing market sector worldwide in the middle class, which traditionally has been overwhelming consumer of lower and mid-price range jewelry. None of this is bad news for the high-end jewelry market. For many years, we were concerned that the coming generation of consumers, who after all have broadening variety of attractive options on which to spend their disposable income, we feared that they would be less enamored by jewelry than were their parents and grandparents. This concern were tempered for a while by the exponential growth of our marketplaces like China and India, but in these places too, a level of maturity has been achieved and grow and plateaued to a degree the appetite for fashion jewelry. However, especially among younger consumers, is exciting. One lesson that the market research as though us to most important predictor of future jewelry purchases are initial jewelry purchases by the same consumers. Jewelry buying is addictive and it also instills a desire to trade up, to acquire items that are more valuable. But to remain relevant, we have to be cognizant that the concerns and the motivation of the 21st century consumer. This brings me to the second trend I would like to address today. In February of last year, Pandora announced that it had delivered on a pledge that it first made in 2019 to only use recycled silver and gold for some 100 million items it produces each year. By moving away from newly mined metals to recycled minerals and materials, the company said it would reduce its carbon dioxide emission by an estimated of 58,000 metric tons annually, which is equivalent to taking 6,000 gasoline-powered cars off the road. Let me point out that we greeted this announcement, as we have done with others like it, with mixed feelings. While we most definitely appreciate the readiness of such companies to address consumer concerns about the devastating effect of the climate change and global warming, a decision to sever ties with the mining sector is very problematic. In the jewelry industry, the bulk of the raw materials we use are sourced in economies that are classified as developing. With silver, 4 of the 5 largest producing countries are Latin America, Mexico, Peru, as the ambassador said previously, Chile, and Bolivia, and are home to communities whose livelihoods are largely dependent on the mining and processing of silver ore. The unintended consequences of reducing revenues of the men, women, and children living in these communities could be devastating. Take Mexico, for instance, the world's largest silver producer. According to the prospector in 2024, the mining sector in the country represented 2.5% of the GDP and nearly 1 million in direct and indirect jobs. We have been down its road before, although in the gold and not the silver industry. The global recession in 2008, which was instigated mainly by the bursting of a housing bubble in the United States and fueled by complicated subprime mortgages, led by the passing of legislation designed to prevent financial institutions from unilaterally taking the types of risk that led to the crisis. The most prominent of the law passed during that period was the Dodd-Frank Act, which was approved by the United States Congress in June 2010. But Dodd-Frank had an addition, which was tagged on with almost no discussion, almost at the last moment. Known as Section 1508, it enacted a supply chain reporting requirements on publicly traded companies that both gold as well as 3 other minerals used mainly in electronics, tin, tungsten, and tantalum, from the Democratic Republic of Congo and its neighbors countries in the Great Lakes region of Africa. As a result, many from industry simply selected to stop buying gold from suppliers in the Great Lakes region so as to avoid the regulatory requirement in the law. The social and economic impact on communities in the region that were dependent on gold mining for their daily bread was overwhelming. The unintended consequences of Dodd-Frank were what actually led to the OECD setting up the Forum for Responsible Mineral Supply Chain, sorry, which in turn led to the publishing in 2011 of the first edition of the OECD Due Diligence Guidance for Responsible Supply Chain of Minerals from Conflict Affected and High Risk Areas. It became the foundation stone for a range of more well thought out responsible mineral statutes and regulation in Europe, Central Africa, the Middle East, and the Americas, in addition to market and exchange requirement in Europe and Asia. Among them was the conflict mineral regulation passed by the EU in May 2017, and for which CIBJO was a key advisor. In our opinion, while we as a business community cannot be apathetic to the challenges faced by humanity, be they environmental, social, or economic, the solution we offer needs to be nuanced and implemented in such a way that they achieve the greatest possible positive outcomes, coupled with the lowest possible number of negative impacts, lowering carbon emission, but at the same time causing economic distress to underdeveloped communities is almost certainly not once enough. In 2006, CIBJO became the international jewelry industry's first and only representing in the United Nations Economic and Social Council, or ECOSOC. As the body confederating national jewelry trade association in the world's 45 most important trading centers and markets, CIBJO essentially committed the industry from the mine to the retailer to work towards the fulfillment of the United Nations Development Agenda. Before then, existing corporate responsibility systems were mainly defensive, designed to ensure that we do not impact negatively on humanity. What we declared in 2006 was that our industry needed to do more than that. We had to be able to leverage our business so as to bring about positive change, economic, social, and environmental, for all stakeholders. The OECD due diligence guidelines, produced 5 years after we joined ECOSOC, created a roadmap by which mining communities in developed economies could continue to benefit from natural wealth that lay beneath their feet while not being threatened by actors who thought to exploit them while enriching themselves. In 2019, we produced CIBJO's Responsible Sourcing Blue Book, which presented a framework and guidance for sourcing precious metals responsibly in the jewelry sectors. The OECD due diligence guidance was referenced, and it also aligned with the United Nations guiding principles on business and human rights. In 2022, we made available online a free of charge toolkit to support implementation of the Responsible Sourcing Blue Book, providing companies in the jewelry supply chain with a range of due diligence tools. All the while, though, we were keeping a close eye on developments in the greater geopolitical environment, and in particular on the increasing tendency to adopt stricter ESGs or economic and social governance principles. In 2025, ESGs is not simply a recommendation, it's fast becoming the law of the land. In January 2024, CIBJO released its first guidance document outlining ESG principles for companies primarily involved in the laboratory-grown diamond sectors. A year later, we released our second ESG guidance document. It provides measurement areas and metrics for all part of the industry and distribution chain as well, and is applicable to both larger and smaller companies. All these materials have been available at no cost on the CIBJO website. The philosophy that has guided us is that all participants in the jewelry business have a duty of care. I strongly believe that by committing to sustainability and responsible sourcing, our industry will be able to redefine the value proposition of the products we create and sell. Not only are they objets d'art and symbols of love devotion, but they are also instruments that actively serve to create better and more sustainable societies. When consumers buy jewelry, and silver jewelry as well, they should feel that they are not only doing something for themselves and their loved ones, but for the world and society as well. Before I conclude, I would like to express a personal note, in particular on silver, which is very, very close to my heart. And the personal note is the following. My family is in this business since 1821. So it is more than 200 years. And apart gold and other precious metal, but in particular silver, has been one and still is one of the very key elements of our core business. Ladies and gentlemen, India is one of the most important, if not the most important market in the world for silver and silver production as well sales. Let me say that I congratulate and I am really, truly grateful to all of you that are doing this activity, this job, this profession in so proud way that give me an extra reason to enjoy it and be honored to chair the organization that I chair, including Silva and including a number of good friends that are in the audience today with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for your attention and patience to listen to me. And please consider myself at your disposal. I am available for you anytime. Please visit our website, www.cibjo.org. You will find also my contact details. Whenever you need me, I consider myself the servant of this industry, and it is an honor, a special pleasure, and I am truly delighted to be here with you today, even if online. Thank you for having invited me to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cavalieri, for your very impactful presentation and your very candid views on policies, their consequences and impacts as well. You pretty much covered everything, leaving no room for questions at all. Can I see your hands up in the air, everyone, so that Dr. Cavalieri can see your applause for him? Let's give him a round of applause. That was truly one of the most comprehensive, number-filled presentations I've seen in a long time. Thank you so much for your presence, sir.